So we're talking about Colossians here. I'm here with Greg Beale, and one of the questions about Colossians is what is Paul responding to? What is the so-called Colossian heresy or the false teaching that serves as the background to this letter? What do we know about it? Can we reconstruct it? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, this also takes a little chunk of time too. Some think that the false teaching is more of a Jewish false teaching. We'll see why. Some think it's more of a pagan Gentile false teaching. I think it's a combination of both. And the heart of uh, the letter that talks about this false teaching is chapter 2 and verse 16 through 18, which says, "Therefore, let no one act as your judge in regard to food or drink, or in respect to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath day, things which are a mere shadow of what is to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. Let no one keep defrauding you of your prize by delighting in self abasement in the worship of the angels, taking a stand on visions he has seen, inflated without cause by his fleshly mind, not holding fast to the head, which is Christ." So there, the Jewish background is popping up because those phrases, food or drink, have to do with the dietary laws. And you would need to obey the dietary laws to be clean to be able to go into the courtyard to worship at the temple. He'll develop food and drink in verse 21, where he says, "Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch." They were submitting themselves to those sorts of commandments. And so, and then the phrase in verse 16, festival, new moon, or Sabbath day, that's a common threefold phrase used in the Greek Old Testament that refers to festivities at temple gatherings. So again, the temple is very much involved here with that phrase. Now it's going to be important to see that in just a moment, because he goes on and we're going to get to verse 17 in a moment, but in verse 18, he says, "Let no one keep defrauding you of your prize by delighting in self abasement and the worship of the angels." And then it just says, "having entered." There are many different English translations here, but the translation here, probably it's best to leave it a little ambiguous and just say, "and having entered," there in verse 18. So I'll translate that again here. Let's get my Greek text open. Um, yeah. So let no one rule over you, taking pleasure or delight in humility, that is, depriving yourself of the regular necessities of life, and so taking pleasure in humility and worship of the angels, which they have seen while entering. What does that mean? Well, that phrase "while entering" has been studied by Clinton Arnold, and he did a beautiful job of looking at that. He found that the closest analogy of that word "entering," which is embatuo, is found in nearby temples like Temple of Zeus and other temples. And that word is found in initiations into the pagan mysteries in those pagan temples. So what would happen is typically there would be a two-stage initiation into these pagan mysteries, in which you would come into intimate acquaintance with the god. The first is you go into a cave, and there would be certain rituals there. And then to complete this, there would be a second stage in which you would go into the sort of the holy of holies of the deity himself or herself. And so it would talk about them going into the outer cave and beginning the initiation. And then it would say, and he entered. Just leave it at that. And he entered. And he entered. Sometimes a synonym teleo would be used, and he completed what the stage was. But anyway, the embatio had to do with entering into the temple, into the presence of the God. And that word is used in the LXX also in a temple context. It talks about Moses entering into the sanctuary of Sinai, which was considered a temple. This phrase here probably has both a Jewish background, but it also has a pagan background. And you could see that maybe some of the pagan believers who had come from a pagan background might have been influenced by both this Jewish false teaching. And what's that false teaching? That you need to have this apocalyptic, mystic experience in a heavenly temple to be sort of a first-class citizen. So it's Christ plus that. And that's why he says in chapter 2 and verse 6, as you therefore received Christ Jesus, so walk in him. In him. We'll talk about union with Christ in a moment. Paul is at he's really wanting again and again and again to say, Christ is all you need. So these false teachers were saying, no, Christ, yes, yes, but we need to build on him. We need this mystic experience. And the understanding of that experience was probably enhanced even more by those who may have had this pagan background of initiation into the mysteries, where embatuo, that Greek word entering, was used, because a very unusual word. It's not used too much in the Old Testament. So that's the false teaching, I think. And so you can see how both a Jewish false teaching and a pagan background could be involved there.